What is going on, Restoration Dominators? Rico Garcia here. This is a fire episode, so I'm really excited for you to go ahead and dive in with me. Just to give you a little bit of a preview, first and foremost, today we are joined by Skylar Lewis. For those that may not be familiar with the name, he is not only a restoration business owner that's doing approximately $12 million a year in revenue, but he's also the author of the 2-Day CEO, which shows and kind of dives deep into how he runs a, $10 million, $11 million, $12 million company, literally working 2 days. As a matter of fact, he's actually got it down to about a single hour a week. So an amazing story, great insights on this interview. But before we dive in, just want to give a quick couple of shout outs. First and foremost, we want to shout out to C&R Magazine for being an amazing partner and an amazing sponsor for our show. If you haven't gotten your subscription yet of C&R Magazine, head on over to candrmagazine.com, and upper right-hand corner, there should be a big red subscribe button. Just go ahead and tap that, get your subscription, keep your finger on the pulse of what's happening. They have great articles, great insights if you're in the restoration arena. Also, want to go ahead and remind you that we haven't heard, if you haven't called in yet, do that now. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to always hear from our listeners and from all of our viewers. We've got a hotline specifically designed for you. If you pick up the phone and you dial 678-TALK and then the number 2, us, so 678 talk to us, you're going to get a quick little voicemail. You can drop your voicemail there, name, company name, where you're calling from. Let us know your thoughts on this show. I really would love to go ahead and see what your biggest takeaways were, what your favorite story was, and also leave us some comments, right? And what we'll do is we will give you a shout out on our live podcast. So yeah, definitely would love to go ahead and hear from you. So let me just tell you a little bit about this interview with Skylar Lewis. Absolutely amazing journey. I think that we really touch on a lot of the pain points that a lot of us restoration business owners or entrepreneurs as a general whole experience, which is going from that mental shift of being in survival mode to then getting to a place where you're actually satiated and you're okay with where you're at. And then you finally realize, like, man, what else is there? Is this all that there is? And then he really shares this amazing story of what that transition looked like for him and what that journey looks like and how he got on this mission to just get so efficient and effective at what it is that he's doing. He also talks about his amazing book, the 2-Day CEO, but then also some other programs that he's got going on to help entrepreneurs not only better themselves as individuals, but also in saving their marriages. So there's so much content here, from hiring processes, the importance of culture. This was, without question, an amazing interview that I think that each and every single one of us is going to get so much value out of. So without further ado, enjoy the episode. Let's go.
Welcome to the Restoration Domination Podcast, where you learn actionable advice that moves the needle and helps service-based businesses dominate. Here's your host, Rico Garcia Jr.
What is going on, Restoration Dominators out there? Really excited. Skylar, welcome to the show. Do me a favor, for those individuals out there that may not be familiar with the name, this is the first time hearing from you. Fill in some of the gaps on the intro. Let everybody know who you are, what you're from, and more importantly, what it is that you're doing, contributing to the industry and to entrepreneurs as a whole.
Yeah, no, appreciate it. I'm pumped to be on the podcast. Thanks for having me. So a little bit about myself. I started a restoration company, or really a carpet cleaning company, about 12 years ago, and switched over to restoration about 10 years ago. My journey's been scaling that business, and my vision has always been to have a business that could run on its own. And so right now we have Superior Restoration that completely runs on its own. I work about an hour a week. Just came out with a book that I worked on for 2 years called the 2-Day CEO. Details out the whole process that I've taken, and I actually take a lot of entrepreneurs through. We have a couple hundred coaching clients that I work with, where we help them scale and grow and really systemize their business. My deal, I have a business right about 11.5 million this year, and I'm in Texas. The business is in California. And so we moved to Texas about a year ago, and we have our team that completely runs. It's an official employee ran company. company. And so my mission is to serve other people on getting to that place, if that's their vision, where they could do what they love in the business, right? They may not pull out of it completely. Maybe they're in it, but they get to do what they actually enjoy doing and love doing, so they can wake up every day fired up. That's my goal, right? Living on purpose is something that's pretty important to me.
I love that, living on purpose, right? Like just having something that really makes sense. And, I think that a lot of entrepreneurs, and something that we talk a lot about on the show is, typically when we set up a new business, our goal is not to be lugging around equipment all day or, sucking carpet or whatever that may look like. Our end goal typically is, hey, look, I'm going to open up this business. I'm going to have more time to spend with my wife, my kids, my family. I'm going to be able to go on vacations. And then you look back, 5 years have gone by and you're busier than you've ever been, right? You've got all of this busy work. You're wearing all of the hats. You're the CEO, you're the accountant, you're the bookkeeper, you're the lead tech, you're the training tech, you're everything, right? So we never really get to that promised land. Like we never get to where we originally thought we were going to get to. Why do you think that is? Number one, like what bad habits do we develop throughout the process of building the business that we should potentially start to avoid?
Yeah, great question. I was having dinner. We're finally meeting our neighbors, right? It's been a little while. Finally, so we had dinner with our neighbors last night. And one of the guys is a mortgage broker and he's working on growing his business. He's been in it for many years. And I was talking to him and he's still really kind of fully in the business. And so as we were discussing and chatting, he said his biggest challenge is not releasing things. He likes to be involved. He likes to make decisions, right? And he hasn't fully trusted his team to take over the decision-making process and to be fully involved. And say that's probably one of the biggest shifts that an entrepreneur has to make, or even a manager has to make, is be willing and be committed to trusting and getting the right people on the team, but then trusting them and handing those things off. Your team is capable. Like your people are way more capable than we give them credit for. And so owners think, no, I have to be involved. The crazy thing is most businesses, the owner's not involved. Think of Amazon, right? Jeff Bezos isn't involved. Like he's out building rockets. Most large businesses, the owner's not involved. But for small businesses, we think, oh, the right way to run a business is I have to be doing and managing everything. Now, that's not accurate at all. Actually, the right way to run a business is you go find quality people to go run the company so you can focus on strategy and growth and systemization and working on the business instead of in the business. And so I think that the mindset of, hey, I have to do it all, is completely backwards, because that's actually not the normal way to run a business. You get the team to fully do the work. That's a huge shift for a lot of people.
Yeah, trusting the team, right? Is that part of the issue, right? Because again, the beauty about these conversations is we can take a topic and then that topic we can take a layer off, which leads to another layer, which leads to another layer, right? And then eventually you finally get to this place where oh, okay, now this makes sense. So again, going back to ground zero. Well, typically, how does that process look? You started in your truck, maybe you've expanded a little bit. Well, now you need to get that additional help because you want to go ahead. You don't want to say no, right? Which, by the way, as a side note, saying no is kind of a skill in and of itself, right? Like you need to know when to say no. But typically most entrepreneurs, especially if you're in sales and you're trying to build your business, you don't want to say no to new clients. So what do? You hire anybody with a heartbeat and who's breathing and who has the ability to kind of fill that spot. So then, of course, it's very difficult to have faith in that individual to actually fulfill the role if you didn't do your from the onset. So where does it start? Like, where does it begin? Where should someone who is eventually looking to build a business, a real business, not give themselves a job, but like a real business, where does it begin to setting up these systems, getting the right people involved so that eventually they can kind of do something similar to what you're doing, where you got your business in California, you're in Texas, and the business is just running itself?
Yeah, it's great. When we started out, we bought a carpet cleaning van, knew nothing about what we were doing. I still have a picture actually of me at Interlink Supply with a picture of me and my wife in front of the truck mount. We were just, going on this journey, trying to figure it out. We started out by passing out flyers door to door, little carpet cleaning coupon flyers, just from the ground floor. And so our first employee, Jose, was the person we hired. Kind of just a guy that we just said, oh yeah, he has a heartbeat. Cool, bring him on board. And then we started hiring that way. And then we eventually learned that is a horrible way to hire. Just hire anybody that applies, right? Or that is able to drive, or that is able to have some skill. So we eventually learned through many, many mistakes, really bad mistakes, how to hire people. And so we take our time. So right now, our hiring process, we have a 3-step interview process or a 3-interview process. And so for those listening, just don't hire anybody. You have to have a process for hiring. We utilize something called the scorecard, which there's a book called Who Hiring, one of the best books that I've seen on just a good process for hiring people. And it helps you develop a scorecard where you actually can get clear on who it is you want to hire, why you want to hire them, what they're going to be doing, and how you can hold them accountable. And so I think just a little nugget for the guests, though, is to do multiple interviews, right? So because we get excited, we meet one person, we get fired up about them, and then we're like, cool, I'm going to hire them the next day or this week. No, you have to create some space. So because you don't get to see the true person. Like when you meet a person, they have their interview face on. Like we have to wait and get to truly know who that person is before we bring them on the team. And so after the second interview, right, maybe they're interviewing with your wife or your husband. And then so by the third interview, you know who this person is, not just their interview game face. And so that's a key thing. And then also clarifying your interview questions. So we have all of our interview questions written out. And I actually have a link for that later I can share with you guys. But we have all of our best interview questions written out that we found like, hey, these work the best, and these pull out the right responses to know whether or not this person is the right fit. So a lot of people wing it in their interviews. Most people wing it. All of our team, we're trained. We have an actual sheet with our interview questions that we ask every single person, and we know we can get the responses we need from those questions. For years, though, I winged it. I was like, you know what? And then I would just float around during the interview and never get to the place where I needed to get to.
Right. Yeah. Right. Which again, just really is a testament to systems, right? Taking the time to think through your process. I mean, I can't even begin to think whether or not on each and every single podcast, if we haven't talked about the importance of systems and some kind of an SOP, and hiring should really be no different, right? But a lot of this really boils down to the mindset of the owner. If the owner does not have the right mindset to say, I am no longer just a tech, I'm not an employee, I have to take a step back from time to time and really put pen to paper and think through this process. Who is it that I want to hire? How do I want to hire them? How do I want to build my business? I need to have a system. And sometimes it really is just as simple as taking a step back, committing to your highest self, right? That highest version of yourself by putting it down on paper and saying, these are the questions that I want to ask each and every single time, because that's going to lead me to this kind of a result. So really at the core of it, it's all really just a mindset issue, right? When it comes down to business owners. Yeah. So when should someone how should someone be looking at their entrepreneurial journey? Are there any tips or tricks on how they should be getting up in the morning or going to bed at night, and throughout that workspace, things that they should be doing in order to fortify their mind in order to accomplish that end goal? Yeah,
there's a lot of those questions for sure. So much can be said. I would say, right, an effective mindset is that you're building a machine. So as an entrepreneur, like your goal is you're not just hiring people to hire people. You're not just building processes to build processes. You're building a machine. Like if you think of a machine and a gear, right? Think of an engine, right? Or a transmission with all the gears, right? You have a gearbox. Like all of the processes that you're building are just another gear, and they're all tied into each other. Most companies are manually cranked, right? The owner's manually cranking, has to manually do everything. But what we should be looking at is, hey, we're not just having a job. Like our goal is to build a machine, and it could be clunky, and it's going to be clunky. But like the whole mission is you get this machine that can eventually the pieces can move on their own. And the two key pieces of that are processes and people, right? People and process are those two things that are in that gearbox that allow the thing to kind of just crank. So it's not requiring, and for years, man, I was in chaos. I had so many, client issues, things going wrong, technicians doing bad work on projects, lawsuits. All of it was just so clunky for a lot of my career as a restoration owner, until I shifted my mindset that I got to think above this. Like I'm the designer. Yeah, I'm the designer of this machine. So, hey, you're not in the machine. Wait, you are the designer of the machine. Like, how are you building this machine? How are you building this gearbox? Like this thinking every day when you're out in the truck or out in your office, how could I make this machine more efficient? How could I make that gear smooth, right? And the hiring gear, right? The hiring process. How do I make that piece of my machine run better and operate better? And so like we need to be thinking about that like daily, every single day. Like how do I make it a little bit more efficient? You're the designer. You're not just a business owner. You're a designer of this machine. Like that's who you are.
Yeah,
You're
that totally makes sense. Yeah. Exactly. Right. That's probably the best explanation, right? The architect trying to put all the pieces together. And of course that goes through not only the hiring process, but then once they're hired, like what does that onboarding process look like? Well, once they're onboarded, what is the training, like the on-field field, real live training. And then once that's done, right, it's like all of these little small things that individually, I think most of us business owners, we look at it and we're like, you know what, it doesn't really matter. Like, yeah, we just need to get a body in here. Or, you know what, it doesn't really matter. Like, you could just go ahead and clean this carpet this way or do the remediation this way. It doesn't really matter. But when you look at a product, a really, really good product, or just an amazing service, what is it really? Like, what it is a bunch of small little things that are just done so well and that have all been paid such great, attention to detail, and then combined to produce this product or service that all of us consumers were like, man, that's amazing. How do they do this? This is so great, right? And we can't even put our finger on why we love the experience so much of, say, for example, like shopping, for me, it's like, I don't know, I'm a tech geek. So like for me, it was like Apple, right? Like Apple makes everything with such great detail, but like, their unboxing experience is amazing. Their stores are amazing. Like, they've got this system, and it's not just one thing. It's a combination of that entire experience that really you can spend, a tremendous amount of time constantly perfecting it. And, I just think that's such a great, distinction that you made, is being that architect. So kind of going back though, before everything was, flowers and rainbows and, you had this like perfect business, when you were getting the customer complaints, when you were getting the lawsuits, when you had employee issues, when you were just all over the place and it was an utter chaos, did you ever did you stop and be like, oh man, like I feel like I'm losing my mind here? Because I think a lot of entrepreneurs feel that way from time to time.
Oh yeah. No, I think most entrepreneurs actually, it pops in their head, right? Should I keep the business? Right? Is this worth it? Is there something easier I could be doing? Right? It's
like good enough.
Yeah, exactly. Am I able to do this? Like, do I have what it takes? So a lot of entrepreneurs, that runs through many owners' heads, some more than others. Like, yeah, it just is what it is. It's difficult. Business is challenging. Like, it's hard. Someone once said entrepreneurship is the best personal development program out there. So I'm a big personal development guy. I have a company where we do personal development events, Rise Up Kings. And so we help Christian business owners like scale and push through physically and mentally and emotionally and spiritually. And so it's really intense. And it's a personal development. We have a couple series of events, but like I've seen some of the greatest results come from people that have owned businesses. That's like, you will develop, if you stick with it, you will develop yourself as a human being at a high level from what you learn from running a business. You learn how to work with people. You learn how to work through your emotions. You learn how to work through your frustrations. Like, I mean, it is one of the best personal development programs out there, being a business owner. And so like, yeah, so it pops into our heads, but stay committed. Like for those on the journey that are struggling with something, whether it's an employee issue, like it's totally worth it because you will grow, right? The mission's not to have a business to have a business. To me, it's not what you accumulate in life, it's who you become. So like we're on this journey, like trying to, right, get the business to a certain point. It's really more about who you become on this journey. Like, hey, by running the business, I remember when we were at 4 million in revenue, I had the nice house, I had the cars, I had the business that was at 4 million. We had our best year we ever had. I was sitting on the couch and I'm wondering, I'm like, is this all there is? Like, is this it? Like, I feel like I've reached a lot of my goals. But then I remember.
So can I just stop you right there? Because again, this is an important aspect. And I think that a lot of people struggle, and there's going to be a lot of people in the podcast that are like, 4 million. Oh, I do that. That's no big deal. That's cool. But then there's this other segment that hasn't hit 4 million yet. Mm-hmm. And what they're trying to do, they're still hungry, like legitimately hungry. They're, trying to figure out like how they can get their kids in a little bit of a better school, like how they can go ahead and actually gift their wife, that minivan that, I don't know why, minivan, let's call it an SUV. Well, gift an SUV to the wife because she's been, running down this like, old, 1980, Toyota Camry, like they're still trying to figure it out, right? They've got that hunger of just getting their basics covered. And a business is a baby. Like it takes a lot, right? You've got your marketing, you've got your payroll, you've got this, you got that. So the business sucks a lot, right? So during that phase, before that, before you were where everything was nice and comfortable, what does that mindset look there? Perfect. Like when you're still trying to figure it out. Yeah,
and that's tied into that, right? So it's if you're trying to get to this end zone, right, of where your business is at this specific spot, it's like going back a little bit, right, to that. Hey, it's not what you accumulate; it's who you become. So for those people that are at 250,000 in revenue, or 100,000 in revenue, 500, the journey, it's about embracing the journey. It's about seeing, hey, this business is my key to not only making money, but to becoming a better person, a better human overall. So because you have to have that mindset. Otherwise, every time something hard comes, I mean, we had an employee that embezzled from us. Our office manager that we trusted with everything, like majorly trusted, we found out for almost a year she had been stealing money. She created a PayPal account called Superior Cleaning and then was collecting money from our clients. And she was the person in charge of collecting. And so she had been embezzling for almost a year, right? And so that's freaking hard to deal with. Man, it sucks when you know someone that you trusted. I mean, I don't know if you've ever had anybody take anything or steal, or it's just horrible. But what's the mindset to keep going, right? Is kind of the key thing. And so we have to know there's gold on the other side of that, right? That through this journey, we don't need it to get easier. Like, we need to become better, right? Everybody's trying to make things easier. It's not going to get easier, right? Your business is not going to get easier. You will become better. You will become better and be able to handle bigger problems and bigger challenges. So I think that mindset, knowing, hey, there's a bigger game I'm playing than just trying to get the business to the next level. It's really this journey of kind of and embracing the journey, right? I think like at some point we got to say, you know what? I'm in this thing because I'm just going to embrace it. I'm going to love the challenges. There's a book called Loving What Is by Byron Katie. It's the art of just learning to love where you're at and what is happening at that moment. Like just hugging it and learning to just embrace the suck, right? Like, hey, I'm struggling right now, and I'm just going to go hug it and embrace it and love on it because this will make me better, right? This is going to make me more evolved.
Yeah, no, I love it, man. And the reason why I brought that up is because, again, it's very difficult from a mindset perspective when you're trying to achieve a certain, let's call it standard of living, right? Just a basic standard of living, because for a lot of restoration guys, if you have the conversation with them, you realize they were a tech, right? For a long time, they were a tech, and they were just kind of tired of being a tech, and they wanted to advance, and they saw the growth of a company, and they're like, you know what? I think that I have this in me too. I have this entrepreneurial, bug in me, and I want to have a better life, and I want to impact my community in my own way, etc. But then the reality just kind of hits you in the face, and it says, whoa, there's all of these other things that have to be done before you can get to that finish line. And meanwhile, a lot of guys are just struggling to make their payroll. So working on that vision all of a sudden kind of takes a back seat a little bit for most guys. Yeah. And this is where I think a lot of the disaster starts, because now you're not thinking about, well, I'm becoming a better person. You're like, how am I going to make payroll next month, right? So that's like that like critical area where either the mindset gets fixed and you're like, whoa, hold on, I see what's happening here. Let me take a step back real quick, right? And kind of coach myself right now, put thoughts on paper, reach out to somebody who's already made it, join a program, do whatever it is that I got to do. Or you do what most entrepreneurs do, and they're like, okay, well, tomorrow I'm just going to knock on a few more doors. I'm just going to make a few more phone calls, and then you get sucked right back into the business. So that's kind of like the area that I wanted to expand on, and that's why I brought that up, because there's this cross in the road, right? This fork in the road, and you're like, which way do I go? And that's where I think the decision is very, very difficult for a lot of entrepreneurs.
Yeah, to figure out what I'm hearing you say is the decision to work on the business instead of in the business, even when they're a small company, or even
when they're a small company.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. That's hopefully by listening to your podcast, right, and hearing all the guests, they're picking up on that. You have to work on it. At some point, you have to shift out of working in the business and then shift to working on it, right, and dedicate the time to go work on these things and to build the processes and to work on hiring the right people. Pretty cool mindset that I've had that's really served me even from the very beginning was my vision was always to get out of my role that I was in. I always wanted to get out, because initially we have all the hats, right? You talked about it. We have our accounting hat, we've got our technician hat, we have our sales, our marketing, production, all of it. We have all those hats. And so my goal, right, most businesses have started, I've always started and learned it from the bottom and studied it and figured out how to get really good at being a tech, right? I was a really good tech. And then I was like, cool, how do I take that hat off now? So my mission was always to take the hat off. So I had to hire people to take that hat off. So that's always been my, your vision, whatever role you're at, whether you're a tech or whether you're in sales, right? You're doing all the selling at your business, or whether you're doing all the marketing, or whether you're still doing accounting, or you're the whole manager, all issues come to you. Like whatever hat you're wearing, your vision, your goal should be able to get that hat off onto somebody else. So level up that role. I like to learn all the roles. So I'll learn the role and then I'll go hire somebody to do that. But I'm always antsy. I'm like, how do I get this hat off? I'm a tech right now. How do I hire a tech that can do it? And the goal is to get someone to do it 80%. Or if I can find someone that can do it as good as me, about 80%, right? where there's still that 20% gap, I'm fine with that. If they can do it as 80% as good as me, I'm golden, like perfect. You're rarely going to find someone that can do it as good as you, like perfectly, like your level. You're the owner. So you're going to be doing it. And sometimes you can find people that will do it better, but if they can do it 80%, then it's like, cool, you're hired if you're a fit culturally.
Right. I love that. Yeah. Just the goal walking in should be taking that hat off, right? Like, how can I learn this skill, right? How can I fill this role, learn it, study it, make it part of myself? Great, I got it. Let's now go ahead. Now that I've got an understanding of it, which, by the way, I think is an important skill set in and of itself, right? Just really understanding like the portions of your business, because a lot of business owners just sometimes don't even know like what's going on in certain departments, right? And they don't even want to talk about it. They're like deer in the headlights. But just getting that role filled by somebody else. And I think that setting those expectations, like you said, at 80% for certain roles, especially like the labor roles, right? The tech roles. Like if they can do it at 80%, man, that's a home run. Like that's a win. Like, you know, I mean, if you could find a tech that's doing it better than you, then hey, I mean, hallelujah, like all the better, right? But 80%, that's a good win.
For sure. And,
I like
and that's because we're always looking for people that could do it just as good as us. And that's very rare. And so that's where a lot of owners get stuck. Like, yeah, I just do it better. Yeah, I know you do it better. And you're going to be doing it for the rest of your life until you find someone else that can do it. I get it. You're the best. You're awesome. Right? So, but the owners build the whole business around them. They're like the superstar. You're the star of the show. Stop being the star of the show. Go build other people up to be the star of the show. But it's an ego thing. It was an ego. Well, for me, it was an ego thing. I had a big ego. I wanted to be the star. Yeah.
So it's funny because, and this is kind of not really off topic, but a little bit just kind of getting ahead of the conversation here. That same mindset is something that I apply when it comes down to speaking to business owners and they're talking about their marketing. It doesn't matter. We spend so much time getting so good at what the technical aspect of our business, whether that's carpet cleaning, whether it's the remediation or the mitigation, what have you, right? We spend so much time and you have these conversations like, well, you know, I got to do it my way because I am the absolute best. Great. And, you know, and sure, they've got, you know, all of these, you know, master accreditations with the IICRC, and that's amazing. But because of that, it's a double-edged sword. They don't have the exposure. They're still obscure to their general marketplace. So yes, you're the best, but you're not getting your phone to ring, right? Mm-hmm. So that all of a sudden is a trade-off as well, because if you're going to just stay the best and you're going to be doing that for the rest of your life, there's only 24 hours in a day that you're capped. You need to find team that can go ahead and do it, you know, as good as you or within a reasonable percentage as you, scale it, and then you can go ahead and concentrate your efforts on getting out of obscurity and making sure that you have enough of a footprint in your local area or national area, whatever those goals and ambitions are. And that's how you scale the business. But if you have that mindset of I just have to be the absolute best and I got to work on every single detail, well, you never have a time to step back and reflect and say, how can I possibly get better and grow this business and actually have an impact on the community and the people that I hire, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's great, and a great way. You hit a great point, right? People will spend all this time learning their trade, and I think it's incredible, right? To learn your craft and master your craft, super important. And your craft is really your business. You're a business owner, right? You're the designer. So a lot of people are mastering the wrong craft, right? You're mastering the craft of a technician. How about you just go hire a technician that's a master of their craft? And then you become the masterful person in business. And so by listening to like your podcast, right, that's a way to start to master the craft of business and mastering business, mastering being a designer, mastering being that architect. And so like a good question is, right, how much time are you spending mastering being a good business owner versus mastering being a good tradesman or a good tech or a good, so go take the time to figure out how to master hiring, right? Like take that time out. And what are you doing on your free time? You talked about morning routine or just routines. Like, hey, where do you spend? Are you watching TV after hours, Netflix? Are you binging? Or what are you doing to go level up? Like right. That's a key piece. Like, are you studying? Are you learning? How bad do you want it? And if you don't want it that bad, it's all good.
Right.
But how
right.
bad?
Just be okay with it.
Yeah, totally. And just own it. Yeah. Hey, I'm not that motivated to grow the business. Like my dad's awesome.
Not that guy.
My dad has a carpet cleaning and restoration company, but he's not willing to do what it takes to level up. He just isn't. Great guy. He just isn't willing to do. I'm willing to go hustle and grind and go learn and study and wake up at 4 or 5 a.m. I'm like, dude, I'm going to make this thing happen. Like, because I know, I just have a sense of urgency. My dad's he just has it as a lifestyle business. He's having fun with it. He's able to come see us and the kids and fly to Texas, and it's great.
And that's a beautiful thing.
Totally.
And that's great.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So know where you're at.
There's nothing wrong with that.
And don't beat yourself up. Hey,
and be okay
if you're just doing it for a lifestyle business to have fun, cool. And if you realize at some point, like, you know what, I really want this thing to be able to build wealth for me, it's totally possible, especially in this industry. So like, if at that point you're like, you know what, I'm ready to start cutting out my casual things I do and to really focus on mastering business. There's a massive amount of resources out there, but just embrace where you're at.
Right, exactly. And just to kind of to expand on that little point, what are you doing to level up? How well are you utilizing your time? Look, we have this amazing thing called technology, and technology has done so much for information and how we acquire information. As I was brushing my teeth this morning, I read 2 articles. It was like, dude, how are you brushing your teeth and reading 2 articles? Cool. You know what? I've got a little app on my phone. It's called Pocket or Instapaper, whichever one you want to use, and really good business articles that I want to read. What I'll do is I'll pop it into that app, and then as I'm brushing my teeth or as I'm driving or whatever the case may be, you know what I do? I hit the play button, and it reads the article for me. So right there in that small little morning routine, while I'm brushing my teeth, giving myself a clean shave, I read 2 lengthy, powerful business articles that, guess what? They're here now. Now, before you and I sat down in the interview, what did I do? I took a few minutes. I jotted down some of my thoughts on what I just read, on how that applies to my business, how I could utilize that, how I could share that information with other people to help them advance. All while, think about this, I was brushing my teeth. I mean, something that hopefully everybody does, at least once a day, right?
Yeah.
You're capitalizing on that time, buying your time back, and you're still upping, and what it does from a mindset perspective, it gets you in this phase of like, 7:00 in the morning, I got something going, right? I'm thinking now. I've got all these great ideas floating, and that does something to the cadence of your day. So we kind of went off on a little bit of a tangent because you were on the couch, $4 million in revenue, and you're like, hey, is this all that there is? When you hit that, what was like your next step? What was your next thought? Like what did you do as an individual once you hit that $4 million mark? And like you were saying, you were just, you had that nice car, you had the nice house, and you're like, man, is this all that there is? Because now you're satiated, right? Your lifestyle was satiated. Everybody's good, right? Your belly's nice and full. Then what happened?
Yeah, I think a lot of people hit that point. Everybody does. You set a goal, right? Maybe it was 500 grand to hit, and you hit it. Now what, right? Now you're able to provide for your kids, get them to a good school. Like, what do you do now? And so that's where I was at. I was sitting there. I'm like, just kind of confused, like, because I didn't want to decay, right? You're either growing or you're dying, and that's true in everything in life. There's no homeostasis. There's no level line. Like you're either growing or you're dying. So in your marriage, right? You're either growing in your marriage or the marriage is in a slow decay. In business, your business is growing and thriving or it's in a slow decay. There's no cruise control. Cruise control really means decay. And so there's investments that need to happen, right? And so I didn't want to decay. I wanted to continue to grow. But so I was thinking, I'm like, you know what? I'm tired of setting goals just around money. Like, what could I get? What could I achieve? How much could I buy a cool boat or buy a cool car? I didn't want that. And so, you know what? I was like, well, what will motivate me? I was trying to figure out like what will motivate me, because money doesn't motivate everybody. Some people are motivated by other things. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to set a goal to hit $10 million, not because of $10 million because I can buy a bigger house, but because of who I would have to be to achieve to build a $10 million company, to run it. Because at 4 million, like I was able to run it, but at 10 million, it's much more complex, more people. Now you got an executive team, management team. Like I have to step up my leadership, accounting, cash flow, all these things become much more challenging. So I set a goal. I said, hey, I'm going to go for 10 million because of who I'm going to have to be when I'm eventually running that company. And so I hit that goal. I think it was 4 or 5 years later, I hit that goal, and I had to level up to get there. Like I had to become a different person to be able to run that company. And so we think, well, hey, why am I not getting to my goal? You haven't leveled yourself up enough to be able to hit the goal. Like if you just do more work, that's not going to necessarily get you the result. Like you have to change. Like your current results that you've achieved are based on who you are right now. So if you want to get to the next level, you have to change who you are to get to the next level. So that's the key, like personal growth, developing, right? Maybe it's waking up earlier. Maybe it's being more strategic or better with your calendar or managing your time better. Like, you have to level up to get to the next level. It's not going to come without you changing.
I love that. And it's funny. And I kind of have to mention this, right? Because the name of our show, Restoration Domination. You're a restoration business owner. I'm a restoration business owner. We have not once spoken about the latest air scrubber, the fastest drying technology. We haven't talked about any of that because none of that really moves the needle as a business owner. It's all about the mindset. It's all about the systems that you have in place and how you are personally, as a business owner, as a leader, how you are leveling up. And what I want to do is actually want to go ahead and dive deep into that. And I want to talk about the 2-day CEO. I want to talk about Rise Up Kings. I want to talk about all of these amazing things that you're doing. But before we get into that, let's go ahead and take a quick moment and thank our sponsors. Hey, Dominators, real quick, let me ask you a question. How would you like to increase productivity? How would you like faster claims resolution? And more importantly, how would you like to reduce litigation? Well, this is exactly what mPartial allows you to do. mPartial creates timely, accurate estimates for faster and fair claim settlement. Building upon Matterport's technology, the mPartial Scope tool extracts the relevant data embedded with pre-mitigation and post-mitigation scans and subsequently renders an exactimate or assimilability estimate that can be approved by a carrier without any hesitation. The magic here is that the software helps contractors generate mitigation and repair estimates for more rapid approval from insurance carriers while removing the burdensome administrative process. Each mPartial estimate is produced with objective accuracy using immersive 3D imagery and precise physical and geospatial measurements. mPartial, in my opinion, is one of those tools that simply can go ahead and change your business. And with so many features such as mPartial tags, timestamp matter tags, the ability to upload JPEG, PNG, ESX, and so much more. mPartial is that software that could genuinely change your business. Make sure that you check them out in the video description below or in the show notes and see for yourself. Hey, Dominators, real quick, let me ask you a question. Have policyholders struggled to come up with your money because it's held with the mortgage company? Or does the percentage of uncollected debt that you collected in 2021 exceed over 2.5%? Or even better, let me ask you this. Do you dread negotiating with your policyholder when it comes time to collect your final payment and deductible? So look, if you answered yes to any of these questions, then you need to check out Sureti. You see, Sureti is a third-party fund control company. And what they do is they ensure that you get paid faster and, more importantly, completely for the hard work that your crews are doing. Sureti relieves not only the policyholder, but you of tremendous administrative burden while ensuring that the claims process, and more importantly, the proceeds flow via ACH to the rightful owner, you, the restorer. And here's the best part. For less than the average credit card fee, Sureti delivers on numerous fronts. So here's what I want you to do. If you want to learn more about how Sureti can help you, I want you to head on over to www.sureti.com/dominate and request a free demo today. Now listen, Restoration Domination listeners, just like you, are going to receive a really cool offer. And here it is. You're going to receive an exclusive offer, which includes free processing for the first insurance claims check and 3 months of free access within their network. Again, that's Sureti, SURETI.com/dominate. Photo documentation is possibly one of the most important aspects of what it is that we do in the restoration business. Not only so that the client knows exactly what's going on, but also so that you can prove your work to insurance companies. One of the best ways that I've found to go ahead and document our projects is by using CompanyCam. CompanyCam is an amazing app. It has so many features, everything from timestamped and GPS located photos, individual project files, unlimited photo storage, in WhatsApp communication with your crew, a live stream of all of your projects as the photos are coming in, as if it was an Instagram feed. So from a managerial standpoint, CompanyCam can help you there as well. But more importantly, it gives you the ability to protect your organization while documenting and keeping everything nice and neat. So we've got a really special offer for you. If you go to CompanyCam.com/dominate, not only will you get your 14-day free trial, but you're also going to get the first 2 months 50% off. So again, head on over to CompanyCam.com/dominate, get the app, and I'm sure you're going to love it. All right, we are back. So we left off talking about, the mindset and leveling up and everything that's involved in that, right? And there's tons and tons of resources out there, amazing books, great authors, great programs, great masterminds. There's all of these great things that, people should be getting involved in. What in casual conversation, something that's happened that, people have opened up or they've confessed is like, they say, listen, bro, like, I don't have anybody. Like, I'm the first one in my family who's run a business, or none of my friends are, none of them are wealthy. None of them are successful. I'm not really connected. Right. So then how do you get that information? How do you get access to that information? And part of that is through, at least for me, was always through books, right? Like, there's great people out there that put their best stuff on paper so that other people can read it and learn from it, right? So it kind of leads us into your book, The 2-Day CEO. Talk to us about that. When did you come up with the concept? What is it all about, and how is it helping people?
Yeah, it's great. So I'll kind of tell you the journey real quick. It was 2016. I was struggling with balance in my life. So I was working a lot. I didn't know how to stay balanced, and in my marriage and with my family. And so I decided to do something kind of crazy. I decided to go take one day off a week. So I took one day off a week, and it was either a Wednesday or Friday, and I would go spend time with the family. I'd go to Disneyland with our little guy. I would go to the zoo. I took that time off. And so what was crazy? I had to learn how to run the business in 4 days. So like, I maxed out those 4 days because I knew I didn't have the extra day, because I was like, it was taken up, and I committed to that, and I committed to my wife. Like, I will do this for a year. So I did it for a year. And I'm like, you know what? That's interesting. Like, I actually was able to run the business successfully in 4 days. So I said, I wonder if I could do that in 3 days. And so I went to 3 days, and while building some systems and getting the right people in place. And then I went to 3 days. Then I eventually went to 2 days, and I ran the business for 2 days a week. While I launched some other things and was working on other projects. So I ran it in 2 days. And then, I learned to run the business in 2 days a week with the right processes and the right people. And there's a whole system for that, which is what I talk about in the book. And then eventually COVID hit, right? I was doing 2 days a week, and then COVID hit, and I went into the office 1 day a week. So I did 1 day a week during COVID, and I'm like, you know what? 1 day a week, cool. I bet I could do this remotely. And so last year I moved to Texas. I said, I'm going to go try this in Texas. The business is in California. I'm like, can I do this? And then the team, I realized the team didn't even need me. Like, when you do a good job leading the team, building the right culture, right, which is all around people, and then getting the right processes and systems in place, like, the business can run. And so now I'm down to an hour a week with my executive team that I spend in the business, and the whole, it's all employee ran. And the challenge is, though, so the book was called The 2-Day CEO. I wrote it 2 years ago when I was 2 days. So I couldn't change the name. It's too late. So I'd already gone all in. The whole thing's really cool, the whole storyline. So that book really just shares the journey. It's actually my personal journey of how I scaled the restoration company. So it's my whole journey of all the businesses I've started, what I've learned, the lessons. Like, it's a really cool thing. And then it goes into deeply how to actually build and scale a restoration company, and like what the processes are needed, what people techniques are needed, hiring, all the stuff that I learned over this last 8 years. And I got to this place by working on myself. In 2013, I hired a business coach to help me, and I paid this guy good money to help me sell the company because I was tired of running it. I was over it. I'm like, dude, this is so much freaking work. Like, I'm done. Like, and so his name was Amit. I said, hey, can you help me get the business ready to sell? And so he came in, and guess what he said as he came in? I'm like, because I told him, I said, hey, my team is they're dysfunctional. My team's dysfunctional. It's like a mess. I want to sell this thing. And then he came in and met the team. And after interviewing them, and as a coach, he spent time with him. He said, Skylar, I got something to share with you. And I was like, what is it? And he said, the problem's not the team. He's like, honestly, the problem's you. It's the way you show up. It's the way you're running the business, the way you're leading your team that's causing all the issues. It's not your team. You're failing. You show up late to meetings sometimes. You're not caring for your team. Like, it's the things you say. Like, it's become apparently clear you're the problem with the whole company. And I was like, I was not expecting that. And so like it got me to shift where I'm like, you know what? I got to work on myself. I got to start. What
was the feeling?
It sucked,
when
man.
You heard that.
It was embarrassing, honestly. It was quite, because I respected Amit a lot. And I was pointing the finger at the team. Like, I was kind of blaming them. Right. So when he called me out, it was embarrassing. It was and disappointing and empowering.
Right.
So once I realized, you know what? So it is all up to me. And I was like, okay, well, I guess I can fix it then if it's all up to me. And so,
and this is where the ego does have a benefit.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
There is a benefit. Again, there's people are like, oh, too much of an ego. Yeah, but when somebody walks in and says, hey, by the way, buddy, you're the problem. And they break it down, and they probably, I'm sure he's broke it down. It's like, here's where. And you're like, all of a sudden, you're like, oh man, I was not expecting this. This kind of sucks. But then the ego kicks in. It's like, whoa, wait, hold on. I can beat this. I can level up, right? So was there like a portion of your brain that eventually like kicked in and be like, wait, I got this?
Totally. Especially when I started, when I realized there's a proven way for running a business. Like, because I never went to school for this stuff. I don't know. Did you go to? You have like your MBA or?
That's the funniest shit I've heard, man. That's the funniest shit. I haven't stepped foot in a high school. I don't know what going to high school is.
Oh, you didn't graduate high school?
No.
Wow,
no,
awesome.
I didn't pass the 8th grade. Yeah, I had kids like I had a kid when I was really young.
How old were you?
Yeah, so I don't even know. 16. Yeah, she was already pregnant by 16.
Oh wow.
So yeah.
Wow.
So.
That's wild, man. Yeah.
So we started young.
Both my sisters, one she had one when she was 15, and the other sister at 16. Within a year of each other. So my family was freaking out. Like, I mean, two pregnant daughters. Like, so I get it. Like they. But anyway, that's amazing. I didn't realize you hadn't finished high school. And again, the thing is, like, traditional school, I love it if you're going to college, but I'm a huge fan for traditional, right, college and really getting your degrees for certain things. But if you want to go make money,
if you want to be a doctor,
yeah.
If you want to be a doctor,
yep.
I get it, right? Attorney, yes, please, by all means. Something like that. Like, I totally get it. But for me, it wasn't that I didn't like to study. I love to study. I love to read. Like, legitimately, I enjoy reading. Like, that's my thing. But I will like read through a subject, study it, and then that's it. I'm off to like the next thing, right? It's my ADD kicks in, and then that's it. And so what I did was I was really upset at, the way that everything had worked out. And I was like, you know what? I want to get my GED. So I was supposed to be like graduating class of, I don't know, whatever the year was. I don't want to date myself too much. Graduating class. Now, mind you, I missed high school, right? So I got my GED on graduating class, and then I went to college, like our local, college here. Yeah. So, which is funny because then all of your, home, kids, right, that knew you from back then, you fell off the planet for like 4 years, and then all of a sudden you're in a college class with them. Yeah. So it was hilarious. I'm like, bro, where'd you go? I was like, I've been around. But by then I was already starting to open up businesses. Like, we were doing our thing. And I had nothing to do with the restoration industry at the time. But one of the first business classes that I took, we're like semester 1. I'm in the middle of opening up, I think, like our 3rd restaurant at the time, because we were in the restaurant and bakery business back in the day. And the guy starts talking about like how to open up a business and what you need to do, this and that. And I was like, nope, that's not how it works. Sorry, I'm just doing it right now. Like, what you're talking about, I'm doing it right now. That's not how it works. And we're like sitting there in class arguing with this guy, and it dawned on me right then and there. And I looked around, I'm like, I'm in this room with, what I'm sure are great and amazing people. This guy's probably giving what he genuinely thinks is working, and I'm already doing it. It doesn't make sense. So I literally, like, right then and there, like, I think I sat around out of courtesy for like another 10 minutes. I walked up and just like got out of there and just never went back. And that was it.
That's an awesome story. I love it, man. I did a couple community college classes too, just to go check it out. And I had the same experience. I didn't walk out of the room and take some balls, but I did, but I finished it, but realized as I was there, this guy doesn't have real world business experience. Most business instructors and teachers, they haven't, that's why they're a teacher. Most of them haven't scaled a business and they're not an entrepreneur. So they teach from theory, right? So yeah, back to where we were at. So, but I love it, man, that you're a stud. That's really cool. You're an entrepreneur. So you were an entrepreneur starting young then, right? When did you start your first business?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Your very first one.
Very, man, great question. You're turning the tables here, buddy. So the very first business that I can say that I ran was at 17. My father was in the process of, there was an opportunity with a building, and it just so happened that it had a sandwich shop attached, and it was like a sub place, right? And the guy, the owner of the building owned the sub shop, and there was like this like special package deal that if we took the business, we can go ahead and work out a deal with the real estate and all that stuff, right? So my father saw that as an opportunity. He didn't really want to manage it. He wasn't like, he didn't want to make sandwiches, and he didn't want to put anybody to make sandwiches. So he goes, hey, what do you think about this? So he presented me with it, and I was like, you know what? That's actually kind of cool idea. I could do that. It's pretty close. Like, da, 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 da. And then that was it. And he's like, all right, cool. So he like, did whatever his deal was because he wanted the piece of the property. And he's like, sandwich shop is yours. I was like, all right, cool. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. You're gonna help me out a little bit? He's like, yeah, sure. I'll show you how I run our bakeries and our stuff. And that was like the first one. And that was like super, super cool. And it just, at 17, and it's funny because at 17, you think you already know everything, right? Because you're like fully grown at 16. You are convinced. You've got all the life experience. But at 17, like looking back, hindsight, you learned some really, really valuable lessons, even running like a sandwich shop, right? So that was pretty cool. That was the very first business that I could say I had like almost, 99% control, and the rest of it was just the legal, account. I'm like, dude, I couldn't even like, I couldn't do anything like legally.
Yeah, you were running it.
Wasn't even 18.
Man, that is so cool. I love hearing people's journeys of how they got started in business. And so that's
a first story actually here for Restoration Domination. So you guys are getting like he's turning the tables on me here a little bit. So you guys are getting to get.
You could ask all the questions to everybody.
Information.
I'm intrigued by you, man, and your story. I'd love to hear even more. So I hired this guy, and that's really where I started to learn like business tactics and techniques. And so when he was working with me, he was telling me like, yeah, this is the right way to hire. This is the right way to scale, and there's systems for it. And like he showed, I never knew there was actually a process for running a business. Like I thought you just kind of figured it out and winged it and created it all on your own. No, there's a proven process for running meetings. There's a proven process for hiring. There's a proven process for sales, scripts, marketing. Like there's a whole world of like, hey, this works to grow a business. This is the operating system for a business, right? And so when I hired him, I realized like, oh wow, like I thought I had to figure it out all on my own. So that was my journey. That's what a lot of my book talks about, like that proven process that I kind of learned and picked up on. And again, it's a culmination from a lot of books, like Who Hiring, right? If you're reading this and you're stuck trying to figure out hiring, it's a really good, simple book to read. So, yeah.
That's amazing. And if somebody wanted to pick up that book, where would they go ahead and get their hands
2 Day
on
CEO?
it?
Yeah, 2dayceo.com, and then it's on Amazon. I have the Amazon link on 2dayceo.com.
Awesome. And for those watching, I'm gonna leave a link in the video description below. And for all of you lovely listeners out there, just go ahead and open up the show notes, and there's gonna be live links there to 2 Day CEO and all the other links and books and resources that we've spoken about so far. Now, switching gears real quick, because we're coming towards the tail end of this thing. I don't want to burn the rest of your day, although I feel like we can go for like 3 or 4 hours just like sharing stories and just unpacking stuff. Rise Up Kings, man. I love it. I love what you're doing with that. For those that haven't heard of Rise Up Kings, what is that all about?
Yeah, it's kind of a trip. It's a Rise Up King. So when I was in business, I struggled staying balanced. I actually even early on in my relationship, I ended up cheating on the woman that I cared about the most, like pretty raw, right? It was horrible, damaging. Like I was very out of weak character. I could call it that. But I learned on this journey of how do you stay balanced? And so I realized there's a lot of guys, a lot of entrepreneurs that are stuck. They're stuck in their business, and not investing and they're not present with their family. They're on their phones when they get home. They're working, like they're not present, and they're not investing in their marriage. Their kids, there's a little bit of disconnection there. And so I launched Rise Up Kings 2 years ago and put on these really intense events to help guys scale their businesses, improve their marriage. We call it the 4 pillars: faith, family, fitness, and finances. And we help guys level up in each of those 4 pillars and stay balanced in those. There's no perfect balance, but you can definitely level each of those up regularly. And so that's what the event's all about. We kind of tied in some physical stuff. We do some Navy SEAL training, kind of just some intense stuff to help guys kind of break through to reach their potential as a man. And then my wife works with a lot of the wives on the other side. So that's kind of what that's all about. That's where I put all my time. So I work on Superior a small amount of time, and then everything else goes to this movement of men being called up to level up, to be better to their wives and to be better to women, and help women level up through them not having to control everything so tight. Like, how do we all rise together is really what it's all about. That's amazing.
That's amazing. And how long have you been doing that now?
That's about 2 years. We've had a couple hundred business owners go through it. I think like 250. We have an event every single month. Yeah, and then we have some conventions and some other things that we do.
Yeah. So what are some of the transformations or some of the testimonials that, have really like struck a chord with you, where you're like, oh man, this was worth it. This is like something that I know I was supposed to do. Like, do you have any of those that you could share?
Man, I have so many. I was talking to my wife yesterday. She got a call from one of the wives, and the wife said, I don't know what you did to my husband, but they had divorce paperwork on the table. It's been sitting there for both of them, like ready to finalize the divorce. And she said, I don't know what you did to my husband, but he is a different man. He's giving me flowers. He's showing up. He's completely shifted. I don't know what happened, but we're all in on this marriage now. Like, whatever you did to him shifted him. And so it saved the marriage. And so that was a call yesterday my wife just told me about. And so we hear those stories, and man, it's just, marriage can be tough. Like, right? It's just challenging. So that's why I do it. I do it for those, to hear those stories. I just got the goosebumps. Just knowing we can save marriages and help them thrive is just freaking amazing. Yeah.
That's amazing work, man. So yeah, such great stories, such great content. If people want to learn more about you, they want to connect with you on social, they want to go ahead and participate with Rise Up Kings because they feel that would be a good mood for them. What are the best channels for people to go ahead and follow you, connect with you, and look a little bit deeper into some of your stuff?
Yeah, it's you can find me on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn. It's Skylar Lewis, Skylar Lewis. So that's pretty much, you search Skylar Lewis, I should come right up on all those platforms, or you can search Rise Up Kings or 2-Day CEO.
Awesome. And again, guys, there are going to be links and in the video description as well as in the show notes. And outside of that, man, honestly, I wish that we had so much more time together. I appreciate you taking the time to being on the show and helping us dominate, level up. And we definitely need to do this again. I think we need to go ahead and there's so much more there to unpack.
Yeah, it wasn't enough time for sure.
Awesome. And Restoration Domination, make sure that you check out our guy, Skylar Lewis. He's doing some big things, not only, in the industry, but just overall, just helping entrepreneurs really level up their game. Make sure that you check him out. And then also, Restoration Dominators, remember, you have a voice as well. Pick up the phone, shoot us a call, 678-TALK, the number 2, us. So that's 678-TALK to us. You can go ahead and pick up the phone, shoot us a call, let us know your thoughts on the show, let us know your thoughts on your biggest takeaways, or if you got a comment for Skylar, let's go ahead and get those. And what we'll do is we'll play it on the next podcast live. You can hear your voice, and it's our opportunity to go ahead and give you a shout out as well. So remember, reach out to us. But until then, hustle, hack, dominate. Let's go.
You've been listening to Restoration Domination, your #1 resource for tips, tricks, and hacks to help your business grow. Subscribe to our channel and follow us for more Restoration Domination. And follow our host at Rico Garcia Jr. on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn. Till next time, this is Restoration Domination. Hustle, hack, dominate.